Hello dear friends, welcome to this program, Moments with God, where I share with you my simple and humble reflections on the daily mass readings or also on the lives of some of the saints with information that might deepen your knowledge about the saints, about the scriptures, about our faith, so that always that we could go deeper into our own faith, make a progress in our spiritual life, go deeper into our deeper self, and eventually establish a relationship or even friendship with God. And if you are interested to subscribe to this channel, you may please do it now. And if you like the video, please share it with also others so that others also take advantage of it. Thank you. Yesterday, we celebrated the feast of the Assumption of Our Lady into heaven, as well as the Independence Day of India. Freedom we spoke about. Mother Mary was freed from her earthly existence and taken up into heaven to be freely in her full expression of love with God, which she already was on earth, and as well as we spoke about our own inner freedom to be closer to God. And today, in the first reading from the book of Ezekiel, the Lord speaks through prophet Ezekiel as to how those people who follow the commandments of the Lord or who follow the paths of the Lord will not die. And of course, Ezekiel was quoting an old saying about if the father behaves in a certain way, then certainly his children will also be affected by his behavior. But God says, no, for me, the father and the son are all alike. This I have been mentioning in a few of my videos, that for God, all of us are created equal. There is no bigger or smaller for God. Before God, we are all created as equal human beings, and we all have the potential, the capacity to worship God, to listen to His word, and to follow His path. But what are His path? And that's what in the book of Ezekiel, particularly in today's lesson, God explains as to what His preference is for the people. To whom will He show His favor, or let us say, who will not die according to God? Die not in the physical sense, but who will not die in the spiritual sense. And what God, of course, lays out a few things on table as to who, particularly those who are good to the poor and the hungry, who do not abuse their sexual relationships, or who do not have their eyes on the neighbor's wife, and also who do not give money on interest or loan on interest to the others. This is an interesting point. Of course, there are several points in the Bible always to discuss, but this is an interesting point. Just as a digression, may I inform you that in many of the Muslim countries, the banks do not give any interest, because they follow strictly this rule that you will not take interest from people. But during our moral theology, we studied, the moral theology professor told us that the nature of money itself has changed from the time of the Old Testament. That time there was a barter system, that you take something from me and you give me something in return. There was a barter system, and therefore the money had a different kind of nature. Now it is that money produces money, money begets money. So actually, though the Islamic banks follow this strict rule of not taking interest or giving interest, actually those who borrow money from the bank, they invest it in something else, and then they start making money. So what's happening? They take money from the bank, they invest in a business, and that business starts giving them profit. So they make money from what? From the money they have taken from the banks. Therefore, what the moral theology professor was telling is the nature of money itself has changed. Money from the bank begets more money if you invest it properly in a business. So therefore it is not wrong to take money in this sense when money makes more money, but where it certainly is wrong to take interest is from the people who are already poor, people who are already suffering from debts, people who are sick, people who are oppressed, people who are, for example, need money for their medical treatment, for example, or to pay their debts. And if they have to take money on loan, these are the people, if we take interest from such people, that is forbidden from God, and that is not allowed, because you're already making the person who is oppressed with loan more oppressed by seeking loan from him. I hope you understand the difference as to how the nature of money has changed, and yet there are people in this world who are very poor, who are always in need of money, not to make more money, but in order to overcome their hunger, maybe, or their medical conditions, or because they have to get their daughter desperately married. And if they take loan on interest, then they get more burden of the money, and that has to be avoided. And I think this is very important for all of us Christians to understand, that we cannot oppress more people. And this is what God is saying clearly in the book of Ezekiel, or in today's lesson, that these kind of things, when we avoid and we do not exploit the poor, the widows, then of course you will not die. Actually, these are simple matters. They are not very highly spiritual things that God is demanding from us. That way, if you come to think of it, God demands from us very simple things in order to come closer to Him. And that's why in the gospel today, the gospel shifts from the disciples who were getting rid of the children, who did not want the children to come to Jesus because they thought the children would be worrying Jesus and troubling Jesus. Jesus tells the disciples, no, no, let them come to me. Let the children come to me, for it is to such as these that the kingdom of God belongs. Why does he praise children? Because children are innocent. They are not going to exploit the poor. They are not going to lend money to somebody on interest who is already oppressed, who is already poor, who is already under the burden of debt, to make more debt on them, to oppress them. That is wrong. That's why children are innocent, transparent, and that's why Jesus is always praising children, for this simple reason, that they are transparent. They say what they mean. Even if people laugh sometimes at children's talk, and that is very interesting, very entertaining, when children really speak their heart out and speak plainly. That's why God is also inviting us, Jesus is inviting us to be like little children. It does not mean being childish. That is different from being childlike. And God invites us to be like children so that we may live forever. And if you would like to subscribe to this channel, you may please do it now. I wish you all the very best. Thank you.